Welcome to Section A of Core Module 2. The title of our section is Women Empowerment and Entrepreneurship. After going through the section, you would be able to understand how entrepreneurship can lead to women's empowerment. So, what do we mean by entrepreneurship? Who are the entrepreneurs? Is it just making money? Is it just a simple business? Actually, it's more than that. When we talk about entrepreneurship, it's actually a collective notion of capacity and willingness to create and manage a business to make profit. That's for sure. But then, it's also about facing risks, understanding the bigger picture of opportunities as well as challenges in developing something new. But more importantly, entrepreneurship talks about the ability to positively contribute to the society and contribute to individuals' well-being, individuals' development, and eventually to empower the marginalized, to usher in the stability and prosperity in any country or any society. So we are looking into a bigger picture of entrepreneurship. So when we talk about entrepreneurs, primarily we are looking into a person who can be mentioned as an agent of change. There are several characteristics of a successful entrepreneur, and we mentioned several ones in the module. First of all, she or he needs to be curious and creative, and definitely there has to be self-confidence. She or he has to be a leader. And then there are so many others in terms of effective communication, open to lifelong learning, and so many other things. Overall, we look into somebody who can take up the challenge, who can think outside the box, and then who can move forward and change the society. When we look into the present-day entrepreneurs, mainly the women entrepreneurs all over the world, we will look into a very interesting trend that the majority of women entrepreneurs all over the world are between 25 to 34 years. There are several examples that we have given with citations in our module, and if you look into the graphics, you will see that in Africa, in Middle East, in Asia, in different parts of Asia, Europe, all over the places, we see that the majority of women entrepreneurs are between 25 to 34. So, of course, there are senior citizens who are entrepreneurs, and there are very young women who are entrepreneurs, but the majority is in this group, which also gives us hope that we are looking into a demography which has a better potential to take up the challenges, and eventually they can push for further development in the coming years when it comes to entrepreneurship and empowerment. So what we are going to do now, we'll take a pause. Let's actually reflect on our own community, our own country, and look into what are the characteristics of entrepreneurs within our own community. And especially when we talk about women entrepreneurs, how are they doing? Who are they? And what actually makes them stand apart from the general population? And then let's also reflect on and kind of document a bit what are the businesses that women are doing? Are they significantly different than the men? And then let's look into any difference between the initiatives and businesses of men and women entrepreneurs in general. Because eventually, as we move along in the different sections of this module, we will need to reflect on the differences and also related challenges and opportunities of entrepreneurship when it comes to women empowerment. There is a significant relationship between entrepreneurship, development, and empowerment. If we look into Asia, on some of the better performing economies, like China, Japan, Sri Lanka, especially in the areas of micro, small, and medium enterprises, we will see that it comprises of 60 to 80% of the entire national workforce, and a big part of them are women. Not only that, when we talk about global economy in the present day, women are controlling around approximately 20 trillion US dollar worth of spending. So that's a lot of money. And more importantly, studies have shown, as supported in our documents, that women are likely to invest 90 cents of every dollar they earn on social issues. For example, on families' education, healthcare, well-being, related to things like that, in contrary to the 30 to 40 cents earned by men. So we can see that women, when they're earning money through employment, through entrepreneurship, this is actually eventually a better thing for the society. And when we talk about women entrepreneurship and society and the impact in the society and within, we see different kind of positive changes. And we have looked into and mentioned several case studies and several research findings in our module. First of all, what we have identified that entrepreneurship gives an opportunity to move up to the social ladder for women. There are different positive examples for that. And also it gives them the voice, it gives them the rights to rise up to the occasion and talk against discrimination and actually take their own destiny in their own hand, the ability to take the decisions. That's something very, very critical. That's something very, very significant. And eventually entrepreneurship promotes leadership, which is very important when we want to ensure sustainable women empowerment in all over the world. So there are several case studies, as we have mentioned, that talks about women getting out of poverty, women getting empowered themselves through different kind of entrepreneurial activity. So one of these is, it's a story of exploitation. This is the empowerment through entrepreneurship. There are several ones. And we talk about a woman from India, where she has been discriminated and wronged at the very early age of her life, and then she was actually kind of sold to a temple, and then was forced to work as a sex slave for some time. But then what happened was she got out of it, and then she made sure that her daughter did not have to go through the same stigma, the same ordeal, and then she came up with this idea of capacity development for entrepreneurship for women who are suffering from the same problems that she has gone through. And then eventually she got loans from some other organizations. And now what we have seen, that MAS, the Mahila Adivirudhi Matu Samsthe, this is a huge capacity development organization right now that is working in India, and that also highlights the localized help that the women actually formulated through their entrepreneurial activities. So it's a very encouraging thing, and I would also suggest at this point to take a pause again and look into similar stories in our own backyard. Do we have that kind of examples in our own communities where women actually take up and own initiatives and then change their life, their destiny? Let's reflect on this. And in addition to this, let's also look into our own country according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitoring Report. I have provided the website for this. Let's look into this and see how our country is doing when it comes to entrepreneurship, especially for women. And then let's start identifying what are the key barriers and enablers for women entrepreneurs in our society and in our own country, because eventually those will be needed when we formulate our own plan, our own solution, our own localized answer and entrepreneurial activity for ensuring women's empowerment. So if we want to sum up this section, what are the key messages? First of all, we understood that entrepreneurship is about facing risks. Of course, there are a lot of uncertainties, but understanding opportunities is the key, and eventually we would that would help to make sure that we can gain financially and socially. And then what we also understood that is 1/3 of the small and medium enterprises are run by women entrepreneurs globally. So that's a very encouraging trend number to look into. And then we also understood that the women's entrepreneurship results in economic solvency for them and their family. So that's the overarching holistic development, economic development of the society that we are talking about. And then finally, we also understood that the entrepreneurship can assist women to be more proactive in addressing social challenges. It gives them the voice to grow collectively and enable them to have the leadership in them to make sure that they decide for themselves, for their own betterment and for the betterment of the society.